Welcome back to World Energy Week. I'm John Defterius. This is World Energy Week 2021, and we're using a number of different social media platforms and receiving questions from the audience. I want to say a big thank you for that because it's very engaging, particularly in the last plenary session we had on the road to the Congress, which is going to take place in St. Petersburg about this time next year, which is a very important face-to-face meeting because we've been living virtually, as everyone knows, for nearly 2 years. We're using the hashtags here, humanizing energy, hashtag humanizing energy, and hashtag World Energy Week. Keep these tweets coming, the posts on LinkedIn, they've been fantastic so far, and we greatly appreciate the very sophisticated questions about humanizing energy in the world today. In the last session that I chaired, which I thought was absolutely superb in terms of the input from our panelists, we had the Minister of Energy from Chile talking about their energy transition being blessed with natural resources, strategic minerals, hydroelectric power, and its plan for greening up the grid there in Chile. But how about this continent? I think the two major challenges when it comes to energy in the next decade and leading up, of course, to the Paris Climate Agreement final targets here, what happens in Latin America and Africa? Absolutely vital. And we got into the role of the developing world and the money needed from the developed world to accelerate the energy transition. Our next panel here is Decarbonization, the Latin America reality. What is possible when you need to provide energy to the 750 million people around the world who don't have it, and some 3 billion that still can be defined living in energy poverty, and still try to keep the climate agenda very high in terms of the goals that we need to hit. Let me introduce Juan Benavides. He's an energy consultant at Fedesarrollo. He's joining us from Colombia with this session.
Receive a cordial greeting for all of us who make the Ministry of Energy and Non-Renewable Natural Resources, and a fraternal greeting on behalf of the President of Ecuador, Guillermo Lasso. I thank the audience for joining us in this session on Decarbonization, the Latin American reality. It is a pleasure for the Ecuadorian Committee and the Latin American community of the World Energy Council address this event of great value in which problems and solutions to different energy-related issues are presented. On this occasion, the Latin American region will present an analysis of decarbonization and its implications from the perspective of the mining sector, oil, transportation, and industry, and the decarbonization impact on people's lives. I understand the challenge of leading the electricity public policy, and I understand the challenge of the decarbonization goes beyond the electricity sector, as it is a duty we have as a society. In the decarbonization of the electricity sector, we move forward with Ecuador electrification through an ambitious program to incorporate renewable generation. Currently, 91% of the demand is covered with renewable production, mostly hydro. It is necessary to think about other solutions, especially for those sectors that are really hard to decarbonize, such as the heavy transportation. Through the use of green hydrogen and move towards the objective and realizing environment sustainability and in turn improving the quality of life of the citizens. Considering that the use of decarbonization represents a great challenge at a global level and according to the commitments acquired with COP26, this session will discuss what each sector is making to meet the carbon neutrality objectives for 2050. And now I will welcome Dr. Juan Benavides, electrical engineer and PhD in mineral economics with more than 40 years of experience in the energy sector, who will act as a moderator in this important panel and with his experience and knowledge will guide this discussion. I give you the floor, dear Juan, to introduce the high-level panelists and start this session.
Hello, everyone, and very welcome to this session on decarbonization in Latin America. My name is Juan Benavides. I will be the moderator of this session, in which 4 very distinguished professionals are going to intervene. Let me provide you a very quick introduction and presentation of the speakers. First of all, Mr. Diego Hernández. He's a mining engineer and has held various positions of high responsibility in the mining sector in South America, in operational, strategic, and corporate roles. His professional career includes positions as executive president of Codelco and Antofagasta Minerals, as well as the base metals division of BHP Billiton, and on the board of Minera Escondida, among other positions. Recently, Mr. Hernández has been re-elected to be the president of Sociedad Nacional de Minería in Chile for the period 1922. Then I'm going to present Mrs. Andrea Heins. Andrea is the chair of the Argentine Committee of the World Energy Council. She performs as a senior international consultant on energy efficiency, climate change, and sustainable development, with more than 2 decades of experience in corporate policy, public policy, consulting, and academic activities. She was the Undersecretary of Energy Efficiency and Savings at the Ministry of Energy and Mining of Argentina between 15 and 18. In that position, she was the vice chair of the Energy Transitions Working Group under Argentine G20 presidency and co-chair at the Executive Committee of IPEEC. She has worked for 14 years at Yacimientos Petrolíferos Federales, the Argentine National Oil and Gas Company. Third, Mr. Santiago Martínez. He is currently the Sustainability and Decarbonization Manager for Ecopetrol, the National Oil Company of Colombia. For the past 3 years, Mr. Martínez has been contributing to mobilize the ESG and environmental agenda in Ecopetrol, and previously he led similar efforts for GIC, the German agency, and the Ministry of the Environment in Colombia. And last but not least, Mr. Eduardo López, who is an expert in electromobility, transportation, solar energy, energy storage, and rail transit. He is currently the country manager for Central America and the Caribbean of BYD. For the past 3 years, Mr. López, he has been leading the regional operations of BYD for the region, developing innovative electric transportation and new energy solutions. So we have a very good panel of speakers from different perspectives, countries, and experiences, which will contribute to make this session very lively. Well, this session is organized the following way. First of all, I'm going to ask every speaker an initial question to break the ice, and then after that we will move through a couple of questions. Each panelist has 3 minutes at most to answer the question and intervene. My initial question for every speaker, in the same order that I presented them, is the following: what are the key decarbonization interventions that could be promoted from your current professional position? Let's start with Mr. Hernández.
Okay, first, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this important panel. As Juan said, I represent the mining industry in Chile. It's a very important sector for the country, 10 to 15% of GDP, more than 55% export. On the last 15 years, 15% of tax collection. The 90% of the mining industry is really copper. Then we have also lithium, nitrates, iron ore, gold, silver, but mainly copper. And we don't have oil or fossil fuels. Then our energy is mainly related to imported coal, some hydro, some gas with imported gas, and lately renewable energies, mainly solar and wind. And this is growing quite dramatically, and today it's around 15% of power generation. Then we have in climate change, we have a double role, a double challenge. First, to take care of our own emissions. We represent 17% of gas emissions in the country, 17. 7% are level 1, and 80% of that is mining trucks that work with diesel, and 10% is level 2, and that's mainly power. Then we have been working hard to substitute thermal coal generation with renewable energies. And the mining industry has been unable to make that change, and we will continue to do it. We consume 30% of Chilean power generation. Then it's substantial, and we are playing a very important role to enable the installation of renewable energy. And we have also a second role that it's probably most important, is to provide commodities, particularly copper and lithium, to mitigate climate change worldwide. Chile produces around 28% of world copper, and we have there the responsibility to continue to provide that copper, because as we all know, commodities, metals, particularly copper, lithium, nickel, zinc, are very important in mitigation of climate change, electromobility, and renewable energies. Then for us, this climate change has something important, is that it will allow us to produce what we call green copper, that it's a copper with low emissions. And that's our challenge for the next 10 years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Many thanks for your intervention, and it's very interesting to observe the match between electricity supply and renewables with the production of highly valued metals, and the insertion of the metals supply chain in the world, trying to provide, as you said, green copper and green metals essentials for the energy transition everywhere. Then, Andrea, could you please address the initial question I made?
Yes, thank you, Juan. Good morning, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to be here in this great panel. As you mentioned in my presentation, I have a large experience working on energy efficiency, not only in Argentina, but also in other countries of the region. I think that the energy efficiency has a key role in the energy transition and to achieve the decarbonization target or the neutrality by 2050. And the opportunities to implement energy efficiency are across all the energy sectors, on the supply side and also on the demand side. On the supply side, we can implement energy efficiency in power generation, migrating from inefficient thermal generation centrals to more efficient, including cogeneration and other type of efficient supply. And on the demand side, we have huge opportunities to implement energy efficiency on industry sector, transport, and residential and building sectors. The region has a relatively good indicators in terms of energy intensity. If we compare with other regions like European countries or OECD countries, but the challenge is that most of our countries are under development. So we need to go through that development, and we will need more energy at the same time that we need to achieve the decarbonization target. So the challenge is to increase our energy consumption in a sustainable way, and energy efficiency has a key role there. The region also has an interesting experience working on energy efficiency, but unfortunately it's not enough. In our countries, we made a lot of efforts to improve energy efficiency, but as you know, energy efficiency is a complex approach because we need a specific solution for each sector, and even if we look at inside in a certain sector, we need a specific and small solution for each of end use in each sector. So the efforts that we have made up to now, it were important efforts, but it were insufficient. So we need to increase that effort. We need more cooperation. We need to work with the different countries within the region, with the support of international organizations, but to try to include energy efficiency in all of the sector, even if we look at the supply sector with renewables. Remember that renewables and efficiency need to work together. There are a lot of synergies between renewables and energy efficiency to achieve the decarbonization. So we need to work hard in each of the end-use sectors to include energy efficiency solutions. And I think that the challenge is to identify the way to scale that solutions, to scale the initiatives that work in the past, and to scale up and to strengthen that efforts. But the opportunities that we have, it's very, very huge. Thank you.
Okay, fully agree with you, Andrea, on the prominent role of energy efficiency. And it's very important for the region because of the high co-benefits it may bring to the table.
Yes.
Many of these interventions in energy efficiency are low in capex and quick in results. So it's very important in that regard. Third, Santiago, please you take the stage.
Thank you, Juan, and thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to showcase what Ecopetrol is doing in this front of decarbonization. So we made a recent announcement last March where we presented our goals around decarbonization. First, we presented a net zero target by 2050 for what we call scope 1s and scope 2. We're proposing a 25% reduction also for scopes 1 and scope 2 by 2030, and a reduction of 50% of our total emissions, so scopes 1, 2, and 3 by 2050. How are we proposing to achieve these goals? So we basically have a decarbonization plan with a series of elements. The first one has to do with being able to have robust baselines. So we constantly update and verify our inventory around emissions. And in some cases, that even involves doing direct measurements through top-down and bottom-up approaches, specifically for methane, which is becoming an increasingly difficult problem to solve for the industry. The second front has to do with incorporating both mature and emerging technologies to be able to abate emissions from our operations. So I'm talking about renewable energies. We have a medium-term goal of incorporating 400 megawatts of renewables. I'm talking about solar, wind, and geothermal by 2023, and we're going to continue increasing that ambition around renewables for the coming years. Energy efficiency, as one of my co-panelists just mentioned, is a key issue as well for us. We have a target of increasing our energy efficiency by 3% by 2022, and that ambition will continue to increase as well. Identification and reduction of methane emissions, as I just mentioned, it's a key element as well. And in the following years, we will start exploring more robustly with hydrogen and carbon capture, use, and storage, which are currently emerging technologies, very costly at the moment, but we need to start setting the first steps around these technologies to be able to implement them at scale in the coming years. Thirdly, all those emissions that we cannot compensate, so our residual emissions, we want to be able to compensate them somehow. So we are developing a portfolio of what we call natural climate solutions. These will be large-scale projects in Colombia around avoided deforestation, restoration, and reforestation efforts, and the like. And we started implementing those sort of projects this year, and they will continue in the following decade as well. And thirdly, I would say diversification to new businesses. So the recent acquisition, for example, of ISA, the biggest transmission company in Latin America, is one of those key elements that will allow us to generate new businesses with low emissions. And in that final space, we are also trying to make sure that the decision-making process in Ecopetrol captures that sensibility of carbon. So in that sense, for all the new projects that are approved in Ecopetrol, we'll have to go through that analysis of how many emissions are they contributing to our projections in Ecopetrol. And projects that are low in emissions will benefit from that, and projects that are high in emissions we'll have to contemplate the level of carbon that they're generating internally. So we're taking all these steps. It's not an easy road that we're taking, and it requires a lot of elements in order to achieve these goals.
I'm very glad to notice Ecopetrol constructing a whole set of interventions, a whole portfolio of interventions along the marginal cost curve of abatement, including quick and difficult to address interventions. But this is very interesting to notice that you are viewing the whole picture at the same time, and that's an important first step. Thank you very much, Santiago. And Eduardo, you bring a commercial point of view to this panel. Please go on.
Thank you, Juan, and thank you for letting us participate in this great panel with such prominent professionals. BYD is one of the largest manufacturer of electric buses and electric transportation in the world. Now BYD is moving towards zero carbon production. Now our headquarters recently was named and appointed as the first in zero carbon Chinese automotive industrial park. So this is one of the things that BYD is doing towards carbon neutralization. My responsibility is located in the region, as you said, Central America and the Caribbean. As you can see in my background, we're working from Barbados, where we're delivering already. We have 49 buses that are fully electric. Barbados, very small island, 200,000 people living here. And such a great breakthrough of Barbados moving toward electric transportation is really an important factor of what countries can do to start helping getting to carbon neutral. As you can see in many of the professional people that was being here in the panel, many companies are moving towards electric transportation or cleaner transportation, looking to be more effective on the use of energy. So also applying renewable sources as solar, wind. This is very helpful for us to increase our participation in the market. Right now, as you know, probably Chile is the first market that started pushing electric transportation in the region. Now Colombia is doing a great job on moving towards that. And ourselves in Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, and the Caribbean is doing as well, many actions. And what we do is basically support and help the governments to transition to electric transportation. And this is a step-by-step process. It's not going to happen immediately, but I think we're doing great on helping these governments just to learn more about the technology, help them with the process of installation, advising them on what are the steps that not even the bus operator, but also the government needs to start working and focusing on the regulations and law that are needed to push these strategies. So BYD also have the energy storage sector or division, which we manufacture solar panels. We also supply batteries for storage for this integration as well. And then we have the monorail systems that we're putting out in Brazil right now, and in Los Angeles and other countries in the region, which is also moved by electric mobility and BYD batteries as well. So I think from our sector, we can push and help those countries to start moving towards electric. Since COVID, we've seen many countries now focusing a lot on the reduction of pollution and reduction of carbon footprint. And I think this is what we can bring to the table, help these governments to start analyzing and moving towards the system. And now what we're seeing also is not only governments on the public or private sectors are moving to electric transportation, but also we're seeing companies like mining companies and energy companies starting distribution companies that are moving their vehicles as trucks, buses, and all their fleets towards electric transportation. So now we're working very strong with many companies in the region to start changing their diesel trucks towards electric. And this is going to be very helpful to start reducing the amount of gas emissions that we're putting out to the world. So that's BYD's focus. And mostly what we try to do is just offer a solution to help these customers to be able to reduce their carbon footprint, but also to save money on the process.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eduardo. And you have this commercial side that we will elaborate a little bit more on the rest of the session. We have completed our first round of intervention. This was open to the experiences and positions of the speakers. Now we have to move to the common session in which 2 questions will be addressed, and it's the opportunity to elaborate a little bit more on what you have said previously. And the first question for the speakers I would like to put on is the following: how can consumers and end users of Latin American countries actively play a part in the energy transition? And I would like to emphasize that that large and small customers face what I call a hidden cost of adoption of new technologies, and they face residual risks. And even if the cost-benefit analysis provides good figures, good numbers, the perception of risk in technology and counterparty, etc., may deter consumers and end users to incur in decarbonization. I would like to address, if possible, or ask you, if possible, to focus on this part of risk. What do you think of these risks that end customers are facing? We could start with Andrea.
Okay, thank you, Juan. And I think that the role of consumers are being very, very important. In fact, some time ago, some years ago, the World Energy Council proposed to include a 4D to the 3D approach that was known about decarbonization, digitalization, and decentralization. And the 4D proposed by the World Energy Council is related with the demand side disrupted. And this is related with the behavioral change and the role of the consumers. I think that the consumers have a multiple role because not only to adopt the new technologies, the risk, I think that there we have to, we should split the point in two branches. One is the availability of the technology, the price and the cost of that new technology, if it is cost effective. And the other one is the information that the consumer has about that new technology, because it's not so frequent that the consumer has the whole information about the new technology regarding the service that technology provides, and the energy consumption and the impact, not only on the energy consumption and the bill that they will pay in their homes or in the industries, but also the impact that new technology will have on the environment, all the national energy matrix, the energy security, and some macro impacts. That information is not always available for the customers. I think that there we have a challenge to provide that information to give the customers some other input to decide to move to a new technology. And the other point that it's important is to promote some behavioral change regarding that technology. It's not only include new technology in the end users, but also include behavioral changes in the way that consumers use those technology. In terms of, if we focus on buildings, for example, we have some behavioral change regarding the air conditioning uses, the buildings, the way of the buildings are constructed, and the ways that consumers select the building that they are going to live in or they are going to use for their companies. So we have several sides to move with the customers, and the customer we will have several decisions in that role, because they are going to select the technology, they are going to change their behavior, and they are going to impact in the energy demand. The other point is the incorporation of demand side management. That is other variable that we should take in account in our decisions. So I think that as in a way that it has no precedence, we will put the customers, the consumers in the center of the picture, and we should develop our strategy, independent if you are on the private sector, on the government, looking at that customer in the center and as an active and dynamic actor in the energy systems. And I think it has no precedent, as I said.
Thanks. Diego, you work in a highly organized and technically sophisticated sector in the mining sector in Chile. What have been the main barriers to incurring decarbonization and technology adoption in your country?
As I said, for the mining industry, there are two main emissions. One is energy, and the other one is diesel trucks, diesel mining trucks. On the first one, we have seen the solar and the wind renewable energy growing very fast, particularly the solar in Chile, where we have very high radiation in northern Chile, where the mines, a lot of the mines are. Then that's a good feat. And now the cost is quite competitive. The cost of energy, the solar in Chile is competitive compared to coal-fired power plants and that are where still are the benchmark for power cost in the country. The big challenge is that we work continuously. We work 24 hours, 365 days per year on the mining industry, and of course the generation of solar and wind is not continuous. Then there is a challenge there of power storage. Say power generation is competitive, power storage still not competitive, and then we need to review, redesign the power distribution system and the power storage, and that's two big challenges. I think that in power storage, batteries and so on, the technology is also evolving quite quick, and we hope that soon that will be also competitive and with the right technical solutions. On the trucks, there are different solutions, and one is to produce what we call green hydrogen with renewable power, and use that hydrogen as a fuel for the trucks. The technology is there, but still is not at industrial application without risk. Then still we are some years to develop that technology and really making that an applicable technology. And if we can solve both power and trucks, really we will be giving solutions to almost 90% of our emissions. Then it's very important for us that. Thank you.
Many thanks. And Eduardo, what has been the main challenges for the new energy solutions you are promoting in your professional activity?
Thank you, Juan. The first thing is government regulations and incentives. You know, and I'm not only talking about fiscal incentives, I'm talking about making technology accessible to the people. Second, then we'll talk about education. We work a lot on helping understanding and educating our customers and people on how's the technology, you know, how it works and what are the benefits that it provides to each of this industry that we work with. In the case of Diego, talking about, you know, new technologies for storage, our solution has been implemented in many operations, not only for bus charging, but also for new energy peak shaving, new energy regulations, microgrids. You know, this is evolving, as he said, very fast. And then we already have a lot of projects in the region, UK and in China and US, and now in South America and in Caribbean, that we're actually putting like hotels out of the grid right now, working with 100% renewable energy and storage. So this is already in the market. And once again, what we face is education, and now making it accessible to the customers so they know that we supply the technology. And we already have case studies that we can work through and explain how it benefits each one of them. So the other part, it's, as he said, getting new technology to the market is difficult. And as Andrea said, talking about disruption in these technologies is hard to get. What we try to work with customers is, first, we don't only sell our products, we just give you a whole solution, which includes, training. Right now, I arrived here to Barbados to train almost 100 drivers and technical people to know how to start working and doing maintenance to the buses, which they're moving from diesel motors and engines to electric motors. So this is a new transition for them. So we need to train them and make sure that that whatever they do, they are focus oriented on getting these type of products to the market and operate correctly. But there are other parts that we need to focus as well, which is our network in the region. So for us, one of the challenge was obviously logistics. So we have a warehouse in Panama where we source our customers for spare parts and whatever products they require from Panama, to make sure that we can get to our customer in the easiest way, not only selling the product, but also supplying the service that we need to supply from the region. So it's easier being a Chinese company. Now we're a multinational company. We need to have our team of technicians and after sales and everything close to the American market. And that's where we are in Panama. So those are the challenges that we have faced. Obviously, on the energy side, what the biggest challenge we face is charging infrastructure. So the charging infrastructure, it's primary for what we do, and working with energy generators is also super important for us. So that's why we partner with many of the energy companies that we work in the region, in each country, and we work together just to provide a solution. They put the energy, many of them just help put the infrastructure, like NLX did in Chile, and it's been working so far so good. But again, the government needs to promote and help incentives these type of technologies. Like in Panama, we have some law that's the energy law that somehow it limits the companies that are already in Panama just to provide the energy, but there's no new commercial suppliers available in the market because the law is restrictive. So this is somehow limiting the capacity of other people, other groups that want to get into renewable sources to provide energy to electric mobility or to whatever other industry it's needed. And now we also have new technologies, as Diego said, the hydrogen, which is definitely starting to get a good participation. Many countries and many companies are focusing on hydrogen for many resources and many applications, which I think is going to be very interesting to see what's going on in the future. And as you see Bloomberg's projection of transportation vehicles, you will see how electric vehicles will increase from here to 2040, and you will see how the fuel cell technology will start getting some participation, and the combustion is going down significantly. So those are the main factors that we consider are limiting this technology to move faster than we expect. But still, if you analyze the numbers in the market, the increase of electric vehicles, not only in China or Europe or the United States, it's increasing everywhere significantly in a very, very fast rate. And I foresee that this is going to even be faster, considering that there's a lot of savings towards transitioning to electric. And also the most important part, we will start decarbonization the countries. And that's something that in COVID, we saw what happened in China with pollution. And this is something that climate change will definitely push us to look for new technologies. And that's what we provide.
Thank you, Eduardo and Santiago. What is the main challenge that Ecopetrol as a national oil company and gas is facing from your internal consumption side?
There are many challenges that we're facing. One has to do, and I think Eduardo just mentioned it, we need additional incentives to accelerate the incorporation of newer technologies. So as I explained later, we put on the table all the different options that Ecopetrol has to abate its emissions. We put together what we call our abatement curves to make sure that we are focusing our main resources on the most cost-effective alternatives to reduce emissions. There are huge opportunities around carbon capture and storage, huge opportunities around hydrogen, but their cost is still a big challenge there. So I'm not saying that through economic incentives you will solve the whole problem, but it clearly will get us half of the way of accelerating some of these technologies. To give you an example, the US put forward a regulation called 45Q, which provides a series of incentives, for example, for carbon capture and storage. And that has had a very important effect in accelerating the incorporation of those technologies in the industry. So I think we need similar pushes, to say, to put it in a way, in Colombia, to make sure that we can accelerate some of these processes.
Thank you very much. I think we have less than 15 minutes to complete our session. And let me merge the last question with conclusions. What role do you perceive in hydrocarbons and the role of natural gas in this transition? And what would be the main conclusion you have to bring to the audience regarding decarbonization? These are two questions in one to save time. We have very little time to complete our session. Let's start with Eduardo.
Thank you, Juan. Well, natural gas, I think it's getting into the market just to replace old technology, carbon and diesel and bunker generation, thermoelectric, which I think it's not 100%. Obviously, it's not 100% helpful for the environment. So I think it still still generates pollution or gases, and I think electric is the solution for the future. Obviously, there's a lot, as the team said, as Santiago said, about cost and making it feasible for the market. But I think for the transportation, we're seeing that natural gas is being used just as a transition technology, and those markets that are actually using right now natural gas or any type of gas on the application of transportation is moving towards electric. Still with some challenges, but I do think that that is moving very fast. Barbados, one of the case. They started with coming from diesel, Euro 2, or very old buses, and now they're moving directly to electric. They even didn't consider going to gas because of the cost, which is higher to maintain, and also is more polluted. So I think it definitely helps us to start giving the steps to reducing the carbon footprint and decarbonize the market. And it's going to help us develop that part. But for the future, I don't see gas to be a solution for decarbonization. So as you see, Costa Rica has a very great plan of decarbonization of the economy. And that's where we need to focus. Government has to start from the head, focusing on going to decarbonize the market, and the technology is there. Definitely, we need to bring it down the price a little bit on those technologies, but to make it feasible for the countries and the markets to have it. But yeah, definitely, I think that for the future, electric will definitely be the solution for all the markets. And you see all the automotive industry going and saying we're not going to produce or manufacture any more hybrid or gasoline or diesel vehicles from 2026 to 2040. So that's what's going to happen. I think that what we see in the projection is that this industry is going to move significantly fast.
Let's move to Santiago.
Great, thank you. It's a very good question. In every analysis that we've seen, fossil fuels will still play a role by 2050. How big of a role? That will depend on how accelerated is that energy transition, but there is still a role to play for fossil fuels by 2050. The challenge is how you decarbonize that demand that will still be there, not just to meet energy demands, but we have to take into account that there's a large petrochemical industry around hydrocarbons as well that meets many demands of our modern society. So you need to keep in mind all those trade-offs as well. So in our case, again, we see ourselves still as an oil and gas company. We are, even though we're going through the transition, there will still again be a demand in the medium to long term, and we need to find ways of again decarbonizing the industry as much as we can, because there will still be emissions. So you need to be able to limit emissions as much as you can, and also be able to compensate any residual emissions. Gas, I think, as Eduardo says, has a role to play as a transition energy source. To give you an example, for us, gas can lower what we call our Scope 3 emissions. So particularly when the emissions related to the products that we're selling, gas is much more beneficial in terms of emissions for Scope 3 than other hydrocarbons. So in that sense, as a transition energy source, we do see gas playing a bigger role, particularly for Ecopetrol. So we are looking into other options to increase our gas portfolio in the future.
Very well, and let's move to Diego.
Well, I think that in our case, as I said, Chile doesn't produce fossil fuels, no gas, no oil, and no coal. Then as soon as we switch to renewable energies, the better for the country. But as I said, there is a problem of continuity of generation. I'm talking about the electric generation system. And I believe that gas will continue to play an important role there to guarantee the continuity of supply until probably in the long term, technology will be developed to store energy at a good price, or then that on electrical vehicles, electromobility, probably you could go faster, but anyway, it will take some years to switch from conventional cars and conventional vehicles to electric. And in our case, of course, particularly in applications like public transportation, electrical vehicles, as they have a lot of room to increase. But in terms of guarantee a continuous supply, as I said, gas will continue to play an important role, because you can switch in gas generation power plants much quickly and switch off also much quickly than the other ones. And in terms of emission, it's less than coal-fired power plants.
Okay, I think we have covered a wide range of problems, issues, opportunities, restrictions, etc. And I would like to ask you, every one of you, in whatever order you want to take, what would be your main conclusion of this session, and what open things remain to be discussed in the next opportunity. So please intervene in whatever order you may want.
I will say ladies first.
Okay, Andrea.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that some conclusion from the session is that we have the markets that are transforming towards the decarbonization. We have the technologies. Most of the technologies needed to achieve decarbonization are there. Perhaps some of them are not developed yet, but most of them, in fact, are. We have some sectors on the demand side that are more difficult to decarbonize than others. For example, the mining sector, some industrial sector, the petrochemical ones. So that sector should require more attention, more efforts, perhaps more investments to move to the decarbonization targets. And last but not least, we have the consumers in a wider concept. The consumers are at the industries, the consumers at the transport sector, at residential sector in a key role, as I mentioned. And but we have, I think we have the most of the tools that we need. We have also the commitments from the countries. We know that the commitments are not enough. We are hoping that in the next COP26, some countries will deep their commitments, and the NDCs at the end of the year will be more aligned with the decarbonization. But let me reflect that it's not only a commitment, it's like a responsibility for all of us. I mean, as a sectors, is quite a moral obligation as governments, private sectors, civil society, and academy to put all the tools, all the instruments together to make it happen, because people is in the center of the problem. Is not only about the planet, it's very important about the planet, but it's also about the people regarding energy access, energy affordability, and equity. So we have the responsibility to work together and to create the conditions to make it happen. So I invite all of you to, as part of this community, to work together to achieve the decarbonization of our region.
Many thanks, Andrea.
Hey, Juan, I would like to just take some of the words that Andrea just shared and tell you that I think, again, the technology is there. We have the tools that she said. The only thing I need to address is that governments needs to, Santiago also said, to make it feasible for the technology to get to the markets. Again, education, accessibility. Obviously, we didn't talk about financing this type of part, but financing is a very important part. There's the banks and development banks be able to offer the financial solutions to bring this technology to the market and make it feasible for the markets as well. And climate change is real. We're facing the consequences of not taking action immediately on when we should. So I think governments needs to commit and pay the price that we have to pay, or the cost will be a lot higher in the future. And that's what we as BYD try to focus on, helping countries just to reduce and create carbon ecosystems, zero carbon ecosystems. And as we're doing in our Pingshan and Shenzhen, going zero neutral carbon industrial park, our office in Panama, it's zero carbon as well. And not only us as companies, we as people, as citizens need to also, talk the word and make sure that we are doing the same thing, and we believe and make sure that we can help the decarbonize as much as possible our surroundings and an environment.
Okay, Diego and Santiago, we have 2 minutes for each of you.
Okay, let me start then, Juan. Well, first, climate change is there. It's a reality, and its consequences are we are suffering. Then decarbonization is a must, and I think that the soon that we address the issue commercially, it's better, because we have to adapt our industry to this new reality, and we need to look that more as an opportunity than anything else. I think technology is evolving very fast, and we need to innovate and to incorporate that in our production network.
Okay,
Yeah.
Santiago.
No, I think I fully share the conclusions by the other panelists. This is clearly probably the most pressing challenge, particularly for sectors like ours, and those who do not adapt will not be competitive in the long term. So though clearly this is a fundamental issue that we need to address, and that no sector can address by themselves. In order to abate emissions, you need to start getting across the aisle, talking to different industries, the cement industry, the steel industry, the transmission, the electricity industry, because you cannot by yourself in your own sectors come up with the solutions. You need to start creating these synergies in order to have comprehensive and integrated solutions, which again, technologies, I think we mentioned, most of the technologies are there, but if in the 2050, I'll be surprised that there are many things that we are not aware of. So there is also a great level of uncertainty. So we need to constantly keep this discussion updated to see what other opportunities are out there. I think we don't have all the answers, and for example, for a company like Ecopetrol, we need to make sure that we constantly review these opportunities, because this landscape is evolving very, very quickly. But again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think it was a very, very interesting discussion.
Okay, I appreciate all your comments, and my own conclusion is as follows. I think it's worth dedicating one more session, if possible, in next few months on financing. Financing is going to be key to mobilize the resources to make things happen, to address market failures, lack of information, instruments, taxonomies, certification, etc. And a topic very, very difficult to address, which is adaptation. Most of what we have said is about mitigation, how to reduce our carbon but I think it's more important, or as important, is to address what to do with adaptation measures, and then that requires a whole new theory of change for countries. Okay, I think we have covered what we have promised, and I again appreciate your interventions. I would like to thank the World Energy Council to have set this opportunity to discuss, and I think the audience will be happy to provide their comments on the web, etc., about this session. Okay, thank you very much.
And that was Juan Benavides, the energy consultant from Fedesarrollo, joining us from Colombia as we looked at decarbonization in Latin America. He didn't get a chance to wrap those guests here, but let's remind everybody, in case you want to post something on social media, it was Gabriel Argüello, the Vice Minister for Energy in the state of Ecuador, Andrea Heins, World Energy Council of Argentina, Santiago Martínez of Ecopetrol, Diego Hernández, National Mining Society in Chile, and Eduardo López of BYD in Panama. Again, great geographical diversity coming from Latin America, looking at a very important subject. And as our moderator was suggesting, Mr. Benavides, it's time to revisit it because it's so vital. I don't think we can make the energy transition from hydrocarbons to renewables without getting Latin America and Africa on board in earnest, with the capital flows moving from north to south at the same time. In about 11 minutes time, we're going to be following the money when it comes to the energy transition, the role of ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and the impact it's having in the United States, Europe, and Far East Asia on investment. But again, what does that mean for developing countries trying to make the energy transition? That's a panel that Halima Croft of RBC Energy Markets is going to be chairing. She's going to join me in 11 minutes, and we're going to spend a good 10 minutes looking at the dynamics in the energy market today and the influence it's having on investment flows into hydrocarbons and also the renewable space, why oil is above $80 a barrel, what OPEC Plus is thinking today, and the space in between. What happens if you have underinvestment into hydrocarbons and before the renewable energy sector can pick up and carry the load with the expectations of the consumer today. Rejoin us at 45 minutes past the hour. You're watching the World Energy Week convened by the World Energy Council. I'm John Defterios in London. We'll see you shortly.